how we can have a parallelism in the operating systems. And we started our discussion with the definition of a semaphore. So semaphore is the one which can be used to have cooperation among the various process. Okay, so that is when you have more than one process, so you can have some sort of a messaging the signal. I think I need to start recording once again. Yeah. Okay. So a semaphore is a variable which is used, so which can transmit signal via the semaphore. Okay. So there is some sort of a primitive sem signal and sem wait. So we have two types of primitives used in the operating system. I mean, in the semaphore. So one is a sem signal, another one is a sem wait. If the corresponding signal is not being transmitted, the process is suspended until the transmission takes place. So which means, so supposing I have a two process, okay, we need to have some sort of a the messaging, or I want to have some control over any of the resources. Supposing I have discussed in the last class. Supposing I'm sharing one common function, so which has a variable, and I don't want both the process to modify simultaneously, so that you come out with the what is that the unwanted result, which we don't want. So we will have some sort of a mutual agreement here. So there is some kernel object is used, which you call it as a semaphore. So through semaphore, you can have some sort of a signal given to the different process. So the primitives are signal and the wait. Okay, let us see what is signal and what the operation or the process takes place through these primitives. So to achieve this particular desired effect, we can semaphore as a variable that has integer value upon which only 3 operations are defined. Okay. So semaphore may be initialized to a non-negative integer value. Okay. Initially, you start with the non-negative integer value, and the sem wait operation, please note this, which will decrement the semaphore value. Anyway, this the theory which we are discussing on what do you call counting semaphore, we shall see the types of semaphore again. Okay. So here the sem wait signal, because since the same primitive we are using in the RTX as well, the sem wait operation decrements the semaphore value if the value becomes negative. If the value is negative, the process executing the sem wait is blocked, which means I have to execute the particular process, the value must be positive. Okay. If it is negative, that process is blocked or suspended. Okay. So if it is positive, the process continues execution. Okay. So if it turns to be negative, then it is blocked. Okay. Please note that the sem wait operation decrements the semaphore value. Okay, which decrements the semaphore value. Similarly, there is a sem signal and this function sem signal. So this operation increments the semaphore. Means your signal is to transmit, to initiate the semaphore signaling. So sem signal will increment the semaphore value, means who is holding the semaphore. Okay. if when you increment, the resulting value is less than or equal to 0. When even though you increment, if it is not turns to be positive, then the process will be blocked. Okay, blocked by the SEM weight. If it is positive, definitely it is unblocked. Okay. So this is the operation or the set of sequence operations are performed in the semaphore. Okay, so you have a semaphore, wait, SEM, wait and SEM signal. Okay, so semaphore is also called as a semaphore token. Okay, it is a kernel object that one or more threads of execution can acquire it. Please note that. So this object can be acquired by more than one the kernel threads, I mean the process threads. So they can acquire or release for the purpose of synchronization or mutual exclusions. So when a particular semaphore is created, when it is created, look at this. This is the data structure. It looks like. So you have a semaphore control block similar to your process control block, and there will be a what is the value, that is binary count of the semaphore. So this determines how many semaphore tokens are available. This will determine the number of semaphore tokens are available, and how many process or the task are waiting to acquire this semaphore. Okay, so this is the semaphore. When the semaphore is created, it has got a semaphore ID and a semaphore control block. So you will have all the information relevant to this particular semaphore in the control block. Okay, and whichever the task or the process acquires the semaphore, it can continue with the execution. Okay, so if it is waiting for the semaphore till it gets a semaphore, it cannot. Okay, yeah. So when a semaphore is first created, it has a semaphore control block, a unique ID, and a value, a binary or a count. Okay, let us see what there are two types of semaphores. Let us see the difference between the binary and the counting semaphore. Okay, let us see the binary semaphore. Let us see the binary semaphore. Here you can see that you have a initial value which is available. Okay, which means if the semaphore value is 1, which means the semaphore is available. When you acquire the semaphore, the value becomes 0. Means no more. So currently I am holding the semaphore. So you can say that there are no more. Okay. Then it goes to the state called unavailable. So it's a binary in the sense I have either 0 or 1. So available means 1, not available 0. So when semaphore is acquired, it becomes non-available or unavailable, and when you release after your execution, again the value becomes 1. So this is the process of binary semaphore. Okay, I hope you understood. Then we have a counting semaphore. In counting semaphore, you have the initial count which is greater than 0. Means there are some number of tokens available, and the state would be the same, because when the initial, that is the token values, are more than 0, means there are some semaphores available as and when you acquire the semaphore, the count will be count minus 1. Okay, count will be count minus 1. Suppose I have 10 tokens, semaphore tokens. So when I acquire the first, it becomes 9, and then 8, then 7. Then when all tokens are released, I mean not released, acquired, all tokens are, that is count becomes 0, you go to unavailable, means no more semaphores available. It says no more semaphores are available. Then the value count becomes again 0, means no more tokens. And when you start releasing this, the count will be incremented and you go back to the initial. Have you understood this? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? I'm not able to
Yes,
hear.
ma'am.
Yeah. So this is the difference between the binary and the counting semaphore. So because and in the RTX, which we are going to see, we'll be using this counting semaphore. Okay. Yeah. So let us see the definition of the semaphore primitives. So we have seen the state diagram just to understand the theory behind the semaphore. So you have a sem struct, it says structure, and you will have some count, and you can have the queue wherein it's waiting. So you have two functions. One is the sem wait and the sem signal. As I already mentioned, the sem wait primitive, the sem wait will decrement the semaphore. Suppose you have defined the semaphore with the name SID, semaphore with the name S. So that will be decremented. It will be decremented when the sem wait function is used. If as I've already mentioned, the count value is less than 0, means it is becoming negative. If it is negative, then place this process in the queue, that is ready list or a blocked list, whatever. Block this process. Okay, so you check. I mean, when this particular function is used, it will decrement the count value. If count value is positive, then you are eligible to execute. If not, it should go to block. Then we have a sem signal. This function will increment the sem count. If this count is okay, it will increment. Suppose it went negative for a long time. It was waiting in a queue. Then if this count is less than or equal to 0, okay, then you remove this process from the queue and place the process in the ready list. Because the process which was there in the blocked queue, take it out and put it in the ready list so that you are ready for the execution. Just opposite. Here, if it is negative, then place the process in the blocked queue, whatever in the queue, some queue whichever we have defined here, okay, then block the process. When you initiate the signal function, it will increment. If the value turns to be positive, then take the process from the queue and put it in the ready list and make it ready for execution. Okay, this is how the semaphore functions are executed. So there's no way to know before the process decrements at semaphore whether it will be blocked or not. There's nothing. After a process increments a semaphore and another process gets woken up, both processes continue running concurrently. Okay. So there's no way to know which process is used. Okay. So this is in the uniprocessor system. Anyway, we are whatever the theory aspects we are studying, we're not touching upon the multiprocessor system. It's only on the uniprocessor system because it is easy to understand. So when you signal a semaphore, you don't necessarily know whether another process is waiting. That also you don't know. Because so you signal a semaphore. When you signal a semaphore, it is something like you increment the semaphore count, right? But when you signal it, you need not know that whether any other process is waiting. So number of unblocked process may be 0 or 1. Okay. It could be 0 or 1. So now this is a binary semaphore. I have shown you the state diagram. So this is quite simple. You have enum, in the sense either it will be 0 or 1. There are no other variables here in binary semaphore. So in sem wait, but please note there is another notation B is used to indicate that this is a binary semaphore. So binary semaphore. If the sem value is 1, then you make it 0. Means you can acquire it. When you acquire, definitely it will become 0. Okay. Else, place this process in a queue, lock the process. If it is not 1, means I don't have there is no semaphore available. Please recall the state diagram which I have shown, and say you have sem signal. In sem signal, as you know, you check whether the sem value, okay, if it is empty, you increment it. If it is 0, you make it 1. Else, this is if and else, remove the process from the queue and put it in the ready queue, because signal is to generate or to give the semaphore. So wait is to take. That way you can understand. Signal is give, wait is take. Okay. So but to take it should be available. Fine. But in binary semaphore, you've seen there are only 2 states, either it is 0 or 1. Okay. Now let us see an example. There are two types. One is you call it as a strong semaphore. There are 2 types of policy, I can say. So 2 types of semaphore policies. This is not types of semaphore, policy. Okay. So you have one is strong semaphore policy, another one is weak semaphore policy. Okay. So this example will give you the strong semaphore. What do you mean by strong and the weak semaphore policies? So what happens is, when say there are wait and signal functions are executed, okay, whenever you put those process, suppose in the sem value is becoming negative, and you put it in the block list, and you get a blocked queue with so many process waiting for the semaphore, through some means you try to get back those waiting process to the ready list. Okay, there are some policy use, that is a FIRST policy, it is a first in first out. So first in first out policy is used so that the process which are waiting in the block queue, they can also made available for availing the semaphore. Okay, so that you call it as a strong policy. The process which are waiting in the block queue, due to some reason they are suspended, and using sort of a first in first out policy, you make so that put back in the ready list from block to ready list. So this is called as a strong policy. But in weak policy, you won't. Okay, so that is the semaphore which will not specify the order in which processes are removed from the queue. It won't specify the order in which the process are removed from the queue. So that is called as a weak policy. In a strong policy, you have some fair enough, in the sense, I know that whichever was pushed in the block queue for the first, I should give a preference. Okay, that is a policy through which you make the process available in the ready list. Okay, that is strong. In weak, there's nothing specific. Okay, that is weak semaphore. So, I mean policy. So let us see the example with the strong policy. In this case, let us consider that ABC process process A, B, C are waiting for the result from the D. Waiting for the results from D. Process A, B, C are waiting for the results from D. Okay. So now you have something like, say initially the process A is running. In the ready list, I have a B, D, C. This is the order through which. Okay. So this is the order through which they get a chance for the execution. So the semaphore value is 1. So when A is running, B, C, D are ready, and the semaphore count is 1, indicating that one of the D's results are available. Please note that this is the process through which these are waiting for the results from D. So some result is available from D, that is what is meaning, so that it can run. When A issues a wait function, because it is waiting for the semaphore, it's a wait function, it immediately passes the semaphore and continue to execute. Continue to execute, and it can rejoin the ready queue. No issues. It can rejoin after executing. It will rejoin the ready list. So in the next, you can see that next chance is B as per the queue. B get a chance for the processor, but whenever B initiates wait, because it is waiting for some result, but the results are not available. Okay, results are not available when B runs. So this gets suspended, the B gets suspended and pushed in the block queue. Pushed in the block queue. Since it has initiated the wait, S value becomes -1. I hope you are following it. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Yeah? Are you able to follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So next is in the queue. You can see there is a D in the list. So D will execute. D will execute, and since as per our this one A, B, C are waiting the results of D. So D will initiate the signal. Okay, semaphore signal, SEM signal. So when it initiates, the primitive of SEM signal, this becomes 0 because it was made -1 earlier, and it will make S is equal to 0, and as per the queue, A was there, C. Now next chances of C get a chance for the execution. Okay, C get a chance for the execution. Now after initiating some signal, D will push it. But moreover, if you note here, when D has initiated the signal, not the wait. Meanwhile, B can be, because this has initiated signal, I don't have to, no more waiting in the block queue. B will go to the ready queue, because as and when signal function is initiated, the process which is waiting in the block queue can go to the ready list. Okay, so this will be put, it is allotted in the ready queue, moved in the ready queue. So now this is what is your ready queue. Now C will get a processor chance, and you can see that this will initiate the wait signal. So if you look at the previous value, it was 0, then there is no, it will become -1, and then if you see here, then after C, B will get, we have not shown the next iterations, then becomes -2, then again B goes, then becomes -3. When D comes, that we have not shown, because you can understand A, B, C are waiting for the D, and A, B, C are initiating the wait. So as and when you initiate the wait, the SEM value will be decremented. It becomes -1, -2, -3. Fine. So now you have these processes in the block queue in the order of C, A, B, and this value is -3. But when D gets a chance, it will decrement the process and make C to go to ready list, and then again C will come back. So likewise. So this is how through your first in first out, how the various process get a chance for the execution through control of semaphore. I hope you understood. This is a process of strong semaphore. Means they have some sort of a fair policy through which the process which is pushed first in the lock queue can come back to the ready queue so that it gets a chance for the execution. But if it can continue execution provided the results are available, because the results which is of interest is available, it will continue, otherwise it goes to the lock. Okay, so this is an example. In this we have shown that the three process waiting for the results of the D. Only D can initiate the signal and other three processes are initiating the wait. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Have you followed? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a theory explanation. Okay. Now we have seen the primitives, the definitions, and the state diagram, the types of semaphore policy, semaphore data structure, how it will look like. So we've seen it. Now let us see how this semaphore is used in our RTX, the operating system. Okay, fine. So we have seen the events. So we've seen the events. So in event, you have event register. So the event register through which you are something like a wait or wait and functions, through which you ensure that the various events are initiated by the process. Okay, I mean you can have some sort of a what do you call control over the process. So semaphore are a method of synchronizing the activity between two or more tasks. Okay, the semaphore is a container that holds number of tokens. Okay, so as a task executes, it will reach an RTOS call to acquire the semaphore token. Try to acquire the semaphore token. If semaphore contains one or more tokens, the task will continue executing. Okay, and this, when you acquire, the count will be decremented. If there are no tokens in the semaphore, the task will be placed in the waiting state until, so the same thing we have seen. Okay, any point of execution, task may add a token to the semaphore, causing its token count to increment by 1. But anybody who holds, right, when it releases, definitely the count value. It's something like the semaphore. You can understand in this example. Say you have gone to some lodge or somewhere. Supposing there are key, and for the same rooms, say the manager may have more than one keys. Okay, and he can issue the keys to the person who wants, or I mean, so as long as the key is with you, the key owner can make use of the whatever the resource. That is what is meaning the semaphore. So anybody can have the key, provided the keys are available, and once all keys are issued, he says, okay, there are no more keys. There's nothing like you block or unblock. It is available or not available. Okay, that is, I mean, why I'm stressing this, because the other kernel object, which is mutex, which you are going to see later, it is totally, I mean, it's a sort of a semaphore, but where if a key is with you, I am the owner of that resource till I release, till I say that the other person cannot. It'll be something like a blocked or unblocked. But here in semaphore, you can avail that provided you also have the key. Okay, provided the key is available. Okay, so that is the difference between your semaphore and mutex. Okay, anyway, the mutex I'm going to see later, and so here semaphores are used to control access to program resources. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. So used to control access to program resources. Before a task can access a resource, it must acquire the token. Okay, acquire the token. If it is not available, it waits when it is finished, and it must return to the token. ನನಗೆ ಸೌಮ್ಯ ಇದರೊಂದು ಇದು ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದಾ ಥೀಮ್ಸ್ ಹೌದು ನಾನು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಲ್ಲಿ. So now how do we add semaphore to a RTOS program? Okay, so to use a semaphore in RTX, first we need to declare the container, semaphore container. So OS_sem, so this is, and within a task, a semaphore container can be initialized with the number of tokens. So you have semaphore initialization. This is something like the sem primitive which you declare, and when you initialize a semaphore, you will be having the ID of the semaphore and the semaphore count. Okay. So it is important to understand the semaphore token may also be created and destroyed as task run. Okay. So we can initialize a semaphore with 0 tokens and then use one task to create tokens into the semaphore, while another task removes them. That is also possible. So that is the beauty of your semaphore. Okay. It is something like you have which will allow your producer consumer of the task, who is some producer and there are some consumers. Okay. So this is one second. You have semaphore initialization and the semaphore object initialize and the count. This much is necessary, and this function, the sem initializer function, initializes a semaphore object identified by the function argument. Okay, so this we need to have, and argument token count. The token count determines the number of tokens stored in the semaphore. What are the initial values? So what are the initial value of the semaphore count is determined by the semaphore. Token count. So in your the RTL, that is RTL.h, when I declare that OS_sem, so this is, you have to it is a object, it's an object oriented program. You need to have OS_sem. So the semaphore ID semaphore 1, and here you will have in the task 1 initialization with the semaphore with the value. Okay, some value. Then I have OS_sem send. Yeah, so earlier I was telling that there is a signal and the wait. Here we have a send. In RTX, the name is given as a send. So they have used that function or signal as send. You send the semaphore. So once the semaphore is initialized, tokens may be acquired and sent to the semaphore in a similar fashion as the event flags in the same way. So your sem wait is used to block or a task until a token is available. So like your event wait or count. Okay. So sem wait is used to block or task until a token is available. Okay. So if you want to know the what is that function, that is there is a how long I need to wait. Okay. So there is a timeout value is defined. Okay. It's an infinite period, so that means I am waiting for a signal the semaphore from other process. So I'll be putting, I am waiting for the results. So this is given through your this function, and how long I need to wait. There is something like a timeout period. You define the timeout period. Okay. Yeah, this is your sem wait function, sem wait function. So in the semaphore, you under the task you give os underscore sem wait semaphore 1 and the timeout period, how long you want to wait. Okay. So this function will return some values. If you note in the previous, it won't return some send signal will not. So receive function will return the os underscore r underscore sem, that is the calling task has waited until a semaphore is available, and this value says that timeout expired before the token become available. If it is okay, token is available and function return immediately. Okay. So that is the indication, means this particular function will return all these values. What is the meaning of this values, which was given in the descriptions. So when a token is available, in the semaphore, a waiting task will acquire the token, decrementing the semaphore token count by 1. Decrementing the semaphore count by 1. So once the token has been acquired, the waiting task will remove the ready state. Okay. As I have shown the example before. So to continue with the process, the token must be available. Okay. So once the token is acquired, then the waiting task will move to the ready state and then run, because token is semaphore is available. So when the task has finished using the semaphore resources, it can send the token to the semaphore container. Means I am releasing it. I have used it. I am returning that. Okay. So it can return the token to the semaphore container. So this is done through your sem send. Okay. So like your events, interrupt service routines can send semaphore tokens to a semaphore container. So this allows interrupt routines to control the execution of tasks independent of your semaphore access. Okay. So there is interrupt service routine can send the semaphore. Yeah, this is about the sem send. I've shown you the sem wait function. This is a sem send function. in this function increments the number of tokens in semaphore object identified by the function argument. Okay, so you have a sem_send and the os underscore sem underscore this will increment the, I mean this after initialization you increment the semaphore count. Okay, you increment the semaphore count. Okay, so please remember that we have got two functions in the RTX, sem_send and sem_wait. Sem_send will increment the token, sem_wait will decrement the token value. Okay, and you need to initialize the semaphore by assigning some semaphore name and what is the initial value of the token. It's about the semaphore. If you've got any doubts, you can ask. Any doubts? Hello?
No doubts.
Yeah. Can you see the code? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. It's made very simple in a similar way, just to make you understand the usage of the semaphore and how we can write a simple program using RTX. Yeah. So here you can see that we have these are the inclusions we need to have, and the task, as I have mentioned, we need to have two tasks and define the task and the semaphore. Define the task and the semaphore. Then you declare the function prototypes, initialization, and task 1 and task 2. Okay. And I'm using some certain messages, so we are initializing the UART function as well. UART function. So we have two messages, simple, task 1, task 2, and say some variable I. So very simple code. So now let me go to the main program. In the main I have nothing because I'm just using the UART. So there is a UART, I'm calling the UART initialization function and system initialization function. System initialization function assigning the highest priority. So this is your serial len function. Since I've mentioned multiple times, let me not repeat this. So every time you will be giving all these. I mean, it is part of the code. You have to have this, without which you will not be able to communicate through UART, because this is the initialization of the serial interface. Okay, by giving some certain values for the baud rate and latching the DLR bit and selecting the TXT, RXT, etc. Now we have a two task. Before that, I'm calling the initialization, wherein I'm creating the task. Okay, so here you can see there is a initialization function. So initialize the semaphore with the semaphore count as 1. Okay, and I've got 2 tasks. Task 1 is given with the priority as 8 and task 2 given with priority as 1. Please note that whenever I give these priorities, make sure that these priorities are less than your initialization function of the task. So there I have given 10. So here it is 8 and 1. That is the priority I have given. Once I create these 2 tasks, you delete this function, right? As usual, because I can make use of this space. Now, moving on, we have a task 1. So this task 1, I have just used a forcible wait here, so that the control can pass to the next task. Okay, so what happens, as you know, when I call this function, whenever I call this function, it can go to the other process or that other task. Fine. So now it will go to the task 2 for whatever the duration I have put. Here you have given that you wait for the semaphore for a timeout period. If semaphore is available, then I can continue my execution. Because as you know that the wait function will decrement the semaphore count value. If semaphore is available, because you have initialized the semaphore, it can continue the execution. Okay, so here in the semaphore initialization, we have given some semaphore count with the 1. If it is available, it can continue execution, and then after I continue the execution, what is my execution here? I'm just sending some message, sending some message, and once I finish my transmission, I return the token. I return the token back to the semaphore. Okay, so I use the send signal, which means I increment the value again. I hope you got it. So as soon as I'm done this, but please note that this can be forced to go to this particular task for the time duration given, because this is the highest priority. Definitely it will come back to this. So as soon as that blocking period is over, it will come back here, and if the semaphore is available, it continues by sending some message, and once I am done, I return this. Okay, we know that here, since we have given some priority to the 2 tasks, with the task 1 given the higher priority than the task 2, what I need to do is, this is one way of writing. Other way I can so that I get the chance for execution. What you can do is, I'm waiting for the semaphore, but the semaphore is available in the other task. I am waiting for the signal from the task 2. That way also I can have a switching between the two tasks. But here we have made a straightforward method. We just force this task to go to the block and then go to this task, run it, and by holding the semaphore and then releasing the semaphore and continue. Okay, so this is what it's very simple, and when you run it, you can see that task 1 and task 2 messages are displayed, but the timing you can notice, that is how many times the task 1 is displayed, task 2 displayed in between. That makes a difference, through which there is a switching happens. That is, or you can call it as an interleaving between the two tasks. Okay. And any clarifications? Hello?
No, ma'am. That's clear.
Yeah. Maybe I have not saved the video of it. Maybe in the next class I'll run it and show you the same. And 1 second. Is this slides visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll continue for some 10 minutes. The theory, maybe the other details we can continue in the next class. So since the mutex is similar to your task, I just want to discuss the theoretical or the theory behind the mutex. Okay. So we've seen semaphore, just easy to understand mutex. So here you can notice there are a number of processes. Process 1, 2, 3, etc. 1, 2. Okay. So in process 1, we have, it's a while loop, a continuous loop. You can see that there are some critical sections. What do you mean by critical section? The resource or the area which are needed by more than one process, and they try to access it. Okay. So how do we handle using this critical section? Okay, that is what for which we are trying to understand the different kernel objects, how we can have some sort of a synchronization among the various processes. Fine. Yeah. So similarly, you can see there is the process B, and you have process N. I mean, there are more than one process, try to. So the king here is your critical section. There is something area which is more than one process, try to. So how do we handle that? Let us see later. But before which, what are the requirements? What are the requirements for mutual exclusion? Requirements for the mutex. So the mutual exclusion must be enforced. That is, only one process at a time is allowed to enter into the critical section. Only one process. Only. I'm stressing this. Okay. So there are multiple processes, but only one is allowed to make use of this process, and they have and process that halts in its non-critical section must do so without interfacing with the other process anyway. Okay. So if they have halt in its non-critical section, they can without interfering with the other process, because I don't have anything to be shared by the other process, that is non-critical section. It must not be possible for a process requiring access to critical section to be delayed indefinitely. If there is so much delay in acquiring or getting access, okay, so that means I don't want to have deadlock or starvation. Okay. So starvation, you know, I just keep on waiting and I don't get any chance for the execution. That is, you call it as a starvation, and deadlock is, so there are many are waiting for the resource and nobody is initiating, or there's nothing, it's some sort of a jam pack, or I mean in the sense it is blocked, you cannot do anything. That is called as a deadlock. Even the resource is available, but because of some reasons nobody is able to use it. Okay, that is deadlock. When no process is in the critical section, any process that requires entry to its critical section must be permitted to enter without delay. No assumptions are made about relative process speeds or number of processes. This is another requirement. So you don't have to do any assumptions. What is the relative speed of the process? How they are able to acquire any resources? What speed? Or how many processes are available? Okay. And a process remains inside its critical section only for finite time only. We'll put some how long I can wait for availing the resource. Okay. So these are some of the requirements in the mutex. Okay. Yeah. So this mutex, we make use of execution. It's similar to the semaphore. So in the same way as semaphore. So you can notice this is mutual exclusion. You have some constant. Okay. You put the semaphore. But here, I think before this, you need to understand how mutex is executing. Maybe I'll show you mask out. So that will make you to understand better. Can you see the state diagram? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is the state diagram for mutex. Simple. You can see that you have unlocked and locked in the mutex. But in the semaphore, you must have seen there is available and not available. Here it is locked and unlocked. Suppose in your initial value, the count is 0, 0, and it's unlocked. When you acquire, the count will be 1. When you acquire, the count will be 1. Okay. Here it's something like you have it's a recursive. There are recursive mutex. The lock count will be lock count plus 1 increment. What I mean here is whenever I eval the key, I lock it. I means I'm not giving it to. I means others cannot use it. That's what is meaning here. But I can use that facility multiple times. That is recursive. Okay. So you can release. When you release it, the count will be decremented. When you acquire, the count will be 1. Then after you wish that I don't want to use more, you can release. Again it goes to the original. Please try to understand in mutex we have the two states. One is locked and the unlocked. Locked in the sense the process which holds the key can continue execution and till it releases, the other process cannot. Okay. Some sort of a mechanism through which you hold other process to eval the critical section. Okay. Yeah. So this is the theory behind. Other things maybe we'll discuss in the next class. So if you've got any doubts, you please ask. Otherwise, I'll stop. Any clarifications or any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, no doubts. Ma'am, do we have a quiz?
Not today, because there is a conference going on. So we are busy with some other activities.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So when is your midterm exams?
Ma'am, it's starting from 15th November.
15th. Okay, okay. Yeah, last quiz I think you have given, right? I've not seen it. For the first quiz, there was, because of some mistakes I did, I could not evaluate the same, but I'll share the answers of that 20 questions. You can see how much you got in the same. Is it fine?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll leave.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.